Why do we ban birds? Well, if you ask 50 bird banders, you'll probably get 50 different answers. But in general, we ban birds to learn more about them. Scientists are always curious about the life histories of the subjects they study, and birds are very interesting subjects. Also, we study birds and we ban birds to learn more about their life history so that we can better save them and conserve them. Some birds are threatened, and the reasons that they're threatened with extinction, we don't know why. And so we need information, we need facts, we need data. We can't just guess as to why something is becoming rare. So in order to ban birds, you have to have a federal license and a state license. This is my federal bird banding permit that is issued for about 3 years, and I have to renew it every 3 years. I have to have a valid research project or plan. And this is also my permit from the state of Michigan, which I also have to have. Now, in order to become a bird bander, you have to do a lot of study, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But some topics of inquiry for bird banding include a lot of different aspects of birds' life history. We basically use bird banding to help answer questions. That's what scientists are always doing. We're asking questions and trying to find the answers. So some birds are not very well known. It's a big world these days, and a lot of people everywhere, so a lot of things are known, but it might surprise you that we are still discovering birds new to science in places like the Amazon and Indonesia. And birds from places like some remote areas of Africa and other parts of the world, we don't know very much about them at all. Some of them we have not even discovered their nests. We don't know how long they live. Well, we don't know much about them at all. So we can use bird banding to piece together information about their life history. If we put a band on a bird this year and we catch it 2 years from now, we know that bird lived at least 2 years. There are some birds that have been banded that live much longer than that. There's a website that you can go onto at the Bird Banding Lab. If you Google Bird Banding Lab longevity records, you can see a list of how long all kinds of different birds live in the United States and Canada. For example, our common black-capped chickadee has been known to live as long as 13 years. The tiny little ruby-throated hummingbird, which I have been lucky enough to band, the average lifespan is about 4 years, but the record is about 9. There's an albatross in Hawaii that was banded by a gentleman in the 1940s that's still alive. She is still laying eggs and nesting, and she is at least 65 years old. We would not be able to get that information without bird banding. Other information that we can get from banding birds is migration information. This map here of North and South America shows a whole bunch of migration routes on it that were worked out entirely through bird banding. It takes a lot of data to put something like this together. If I catch a bird here at the E.L. Johnson Nature Center and somebody catches it in Mississippi, that gives me 2 data points, that it was here in Michigan on one day and it was in Mississippi on another day. So that tells me maybe how long it took to get from point A to point B. It tells me the distance between point A to point B. And it also gives me a little bit of direction as well as some timing. So we can piece together some of this information to learn more about our birds. Now here at the E.L. Johnson Nature Center, we have actually had a couple of birds that we have banded during these class sessions for the 4th graders that have been found by other banders. The most interesting is an American Redstart. Now this doesn't look very interesting. This is a printout of a PDF file that I received back in 2013. An American Redstart that we banded here during the 4th grade banding program on May 16th, 2012, was recaptured in Aurora, Ontario on September 12th, 2013. So just think about a minute about the kinds of information that gives us. First of all, an American redstart is a small warbler. I don't know if you can see it very well. These are all the warblers that can be seen here at the Nature Center in the spring. The American redstart is this little black and orange one here. And it nests in northern Michigan and well up into Ontario and throughout the eastern North America. But that bird was found in September, which means it was flying south when it was recaptured. When we had it here at the E.L. Johnson Nature Center, it was flying north. So it may or may not have been near its nesting area. Aurora, Ontario is, let's see, 215 miles east-northeast of here. So that gives us direction, it gives us a little bit of distance. It also tells us that that bird lived another year. We can also learn about birds that are not migratory here at the E.L. Johnson Nature Center. We do band a lot of black-capped chickadees. We have had some of them here that are 5 and 6 years old, not anywhere near the record of 12 or 13 years, but we do have some interesting birds that return from one year to the next. So there's a lot of things that we can do using bird banding as a scientific research tool. So what does it take to become a bird bander? Well, you've got to be really, really interested in birds. You have to have a valid research plan or research project. Now, this can vary quite a bit. Some college students get very interested in certain research subjects, and they end up doing their master's degree or their PhD degrees studying one particular bird, and they will do this for maybe 1, 2, or 3 years, and they will have their permits issued for that species for that particular length of time. They'll write their dissertation or their master's thesis, and then they'll be done with it. Other bird banders like me, we are not affiliated with any college or university, and we don't have any specific project for one particular species. What I do is called migration monitoring. And so I do bird banding studies at a local metro park as well as here at the E.L. Johnson Nature Center to keep track of the migrations from year to year so that we can compare any changes that might be occurring. Are some of these migrants increasing or decreasing? And so in order to become a bird bander, you cannot take a class in college or high school to become one. You have to apprentice under another bird bander. And in order to do that, it's a good idea to first study your bird book, become really good at identifying birds out in the field, because that is basically the first step to becoming a bird bander. You have to know what the birds are that you're catching and banding, and you have to be right all the time. Now, after you get to that point, there's another book that bird banders need to study. This is called An Identification Guide to North American Birds, and there's data that we collect about each bird. We have to figure out how old they are, whether they were hatched this year or whether they were hatched in a previous year. Are they males or females, and how do you tell them apart? Some birds are real easy to tell apart, like male and female cardinals. Other birds, like Swainson's thrushes, cannot be told apart unless they're on the nesting grounds, or occasionally when we measure their wings, the males have longer wings and the females have shorter wings. So there's no pictures in this book. There's just a lot of data and tables and measurements and other information. And so we have to study all of this information and basically have it in our heads when we're banding birds, because we don't want to take too long in putting the bands on and collecting the data. There's also additional information. As a hummingbird bander, you need additional training and additional study. So there are things like this chart that have all kinds of information on it about particular ages and males and females and young males and young females that we have to study and be able to recognize when we have the bird in our hands. So it takes quite a lot of study. It is very rewarding. And hopefully, if you become interested in birds, you might take a class at your college or university and go on to study them and become maybe a conservation biologist. You might become an ornithologist. I'm a field ornithologist, which did not require any degree. I just trained myself to do this. So you can go that route, or you can be a bird watcher and contribute through eBird and other resources as there are a lot of citizen science projects out there for you to contribute to scientific projects. Even if you become an engineer or a bus driver or a restaurant waiter or anything like that. I was a busboy for many, many years, and I was a bird watcher too, and so I got very interested in that. So bird watching is something you can always do no matter what you decide to do with your life. If you decide to become an ornithologist or a zoologist or a conservation biologist, those are all options that are available to you and will allow you to study birds as well.